How's everyone doing this morning?
Good.
Deb and Terry are good.
Yep.
What kind of countries do we got involved out here? As Larissa said, I'm out here in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada, right where I grew up. But what other countries we have represented?
I'm in Costa Rica.
Oh, Costa Rica. Love it.
United States.
USA in the house.
Florida.
Ooh.
As opposed to the
Maine.
United States.
Pennsylvania.
Edmonton, Canada.
Ooh, Edmonton. Awesome. Well, this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited to jump into this delicious recipe with all of you guys. This is a pretty common recipe for me, or at least a base recipe that I use pretty often and really, really enjoy. I don't know if you guys are as familiar with Napa cabbage. A lot of people don't eat a ton of it, but it is one of my all-time favorite greens, as is bok choy. Another nice dark leafy. Oh, hello. What language is that? An awesome thing about the bok choy and Napa cabbage as well is that they're incredibly nutritious and often much cheaper than the other greens. Back here in Saskatoon, I can get both of these different Asian greens for usually around 99 cents a pound, which is a lot cheaper than a lot of other kind of lettuces and greens like that. And, you know, per calorie, they're actually some of the more nutrient-dense greens out there. So inexpensive, really nutrient-dense. The bok choy here is really nice and savory. I love the white stems, and we'll be utilizing those in the dish. I'm just going to go over some of these ingredients. You guys probably already have them, hopefully, or otherwise are just watching and enjoying. I got mangoes as a big part of the sauce, and I have two different varieties here, some Atolfo, and what do you think, Doug? What kind of mango do you think this one is?
It's May. Those could be Kent's from down south.
Yeah. This is the first one that I'm actually going to be trying. I don't know. I've tried one Atolfo. Mangoes are kind of early here. The Atolfo that I had yesterday, just to test, was kind of sour, which is all right if it's a little sour. I prefer sweet myself, but we'll see what happens. And as a backup, I actually have some frozen mango that I thawed overnight so that I don't have an icy sauce, because, you know, icy might be good in a cone, but in a sauce on a salad just makes the teeth go, right? It can be a little bit intense. So we got the mango, we got some delicious tomatoes, got a red pepper, and this brings me to something that I've heard you say, Doug, quite often, and I just really think is something that's important to share. You know, quality makes the dish, and when you take care of the quality, the quantity takes care of itself, right? So if we have really good quality food, it's going to taste really awesome. If you're making this dish and the mangoes are poor quality, not sweet, or the tomatoes just taste like water, it's not going to be as good as it could possibly be. But if it's like peak season, or if you just are able to get awesome mangoes, and if you're growing your own tomatoes, or just making sure you're getting good quality ones that just make your mouth split in half with that upward kind of turn while you're eating them, you're going to just enjoy this dish 1,000 times better. So when it's off season, I'm sometimes looking for the frozen. In the height of mango season, that's when I would make this dish even more. But I will let you guys know, if you don't have mangoes, you can't find frozen ones, you're allergic to mangoes, you could substitute mango for almost any subacid or acid fruit. So you could use papaya, or you could use pineapple, or you could use kiwi if you like. Any of those will taste a little different, but be really nice and combine well. The tomatoes and red pepper, I had a couple people reach out and say that they don't use the nightshade vegetables, and don't use tomatoes specifically, what to substitute. And really, if you want, you could use something like celery to add in more saltiness, and you'll see where that's going to be going. And or instead of the red pepper, which we'll be slicing up pretty soon, you could use something like red cabbage or anything else that you really enjoy. You could just substitute the tomato for more mango and make it a more sweet sauce, because we do have a lot of savory flavors in the greens, which we'll be chopping up. But there's a couple options like that. Now, I do want to encourage everyone to use the chat box and to ask any questions about the prep, and they'll be forwarded to me. Any other questions, of course, we'll be talking about afterwards. So I hope you guys are all set up and almost rip-roaring and ready to go. Doug, do you have anything for me you want to add to this fun ensemble?
Actually, just that's really good information, and
Yeah.
it didn't go where I thought you were going to go, which
Yeah.
was that a lot of people aren't aware. Like they like green peppers. They use a lot of green peppers rather than red, and they don't just because. So we always say maters, naters, and taters, right? Like you don't want to be eating green.
Yeah.
You want them ripe. Green peppers are unripe red peppers. And
Yeah.
if you want better digestion, then red pepper is the way to go. Red sweet
Absolutely.
bell pepper. Sure, that looks perfect.
And pretty much all peppers kind of go through that stage, hey? Like you can get a purple pepper, but doesn't it start a little more green and then go purple?
It'll be green, yeah. It might start out black and then green, or green and then black, but eventually it'll gain its color as the various phytonutrients plow through and the chlorophyll dies off.
Makes it nice and sweeter too, hey?
Definitely. Well, that's the ripening.
That's the ripening. The enzymes.
Can't wait to see what you're going to do, Chris.
Should I start making stuff? Should we talk about making stuff? I do have this scale here, and you guys don't have to be exact. I'm just as a chef, and because I often multiply my recipes up anywhere from 5 to 500 or 600 times, I got to be exact. Otherwise, being off by a teeny bit when you're multiplying by a bunch. So it's a force of habit. We have a bunch of different recipes or a bunch of different ingredients back here, but we're going to start with the greens. I will mention too, just so you know, and as a average for recipes, when you're making a recipe or when you're looking at a recipe in a book or online, typically the amount of food that is shown is the amount of edible flesh. So when I say, mango, for example, 1 pound, which is in the recipe, we're looking for 1 pound of actual mango cubes rather than 1 pound with the skin and the pit. Now, in the off chance that you bought 1 pound exactly of mangoes and you bought half a pound exactly of tomatoes, that means that the sauce is going to be a little less bountiful than planned because, the mango skin and the pit can be, I think, around probably 30% of the weight, depending on the type of mango. And if that is the case, what I would encourage you to do is slightly reduce the amount of Napa cabbage and bok choy, just so that it's saucy enough. This is a sparsely sauced dish. It's kind of like a nice thin coating over everything rather than it being like a super soupy saucy dish, which if you like it super saucy, you can of course do that yourself. So with that preamble, we'll get into the mainstay of this dish.
Hey Doug, we have some questions in chat.
Oh, awesome.
Let me take a look. I'll be okay. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention to the chat, but I'll keep looking over there. Chris, you can keep going. I'll type answers.
I was just so captivating, right? You just couldn't keep your eyes off of the Napa cabbage.
I was mesmerized by you.
I know, it's amazing, right? Look at these. Woo! So I'll let you guys know, and we don't have to get into this right now, but we have some kitties on the catio over here, and they were kind of running back and forth through here. So if enough people say we want cats, sometime later, maybe we'll open the window and they'll say hi. They're really friendly. They're really nice, but they do walk all over here. Luckily, I'm the one eating it, not you guys. But otherwise, we'll leave them on the catio. It's not like a jail. They're actually really enjoying it out there, looking outside at all the fun. So we're going to start with the greens. And again, I mentioned that Napa cabbage is one of my all-time favorite greens. We're going to be using 1.5 pounds. Now, this is a pretty darn big recipe. Very truthfully, this is exactly the size that I would eat for myself. For a lot of other people, you might find this is 2, 3, maybe even 4 servings, especially if it's a side dish. So I like to have a big salad like this at night. I just feel really satiated that way. Nice, slow experience. It usually takes me about 45 minutes-ish to eat it, which I really don't mind because I love eating and I want to chew well and absorb my food really well. So we have this Napa cabbage. It's essentially a really tender cabbage. Really nice long leaves that can be made into wraps and stuff like that. but we're gonna be making a noodle salad. I usually don't even say salad, and truthfully, I don't love eating salads every single night. So when I slice this thin, it turns into noodles, and I actually don't think I'm eating salad. I just completely tricked myself, tricked all of you guys, right? So what I'm gonna start doing is cutting this in half. I find that these guys, as they're about 99 cents a pound to $1.19 a pound, this is like $3, maybe $3.50. This is about 3 pounds. So I'm gonna cut it in half and see if we get to that desired amount. Let's just see, we're looking for about 340 grams, or sorry, 460 grams. So we're right about there. So that's that beautiful inside. And because this is so compact and nice and tender, it is one of the easiest greens to just slice into really thin noodles. So I'm gonna get my fingers all bunched up here and put the knife against the edge of my fingers and just slice. So if you guys all want it together, get your Napa cabbage, cut in half, or you might need to cut it in a quarter depending on how big it is. And then you can just slice as thin of noodles as you like. Some people like really thin angel hair noodles. Other people might like kind of linguine, fatter noodles. Totally up to you. You can't do wrong here. You can cut them however you like. So I like them pretty darn thin. The way that you cut your fruits and vegetables makes all the difference in terms of the mouthfeel and even the taste. It's pretty amazing. You can have the exact same ingredients and prepared in a dozen different ways and have a completely different dish, even though you're using the same ingredients. Sometimes you got to do that in a pinch, you know, when you don't have a lot of ingredients and you're trying to entertain. You just chop it up different, you know, blend different ratios of the same ingredients, add one little accent in there, and it can make all the difference in the world. So hopefully, let's see. I can't see anyone. I'm gonna actually click over here and go on the panel view so I can see. Hopefully that doesn't mess anything up. No, there we go. I can see a whole bunch of you guys. Welcome from my kitchen. So just cutting this up until it gets closer to the bum or the bottom. Any excuse to say bum for me, but this is just the bottom of the greens. So I'm gonna take this and put it in this beautiful big bowl here. You can even like, you know, fancifully do it like that. Get all of that beautiful thinly sliced Napa cabbage in the bowl. And then I'll take the bottom here and I'm gonna chop sideways, if you can see that. So I'm gonna put it down on its bum and then add an angle, chop sideways so that I can get all the way up to the heart. You know, Doug, I heard you last time, on the last one, kind of talking about that, what is it, like personification of plants and calling it hearts and cheeks and stuff like that.
Yeah,
We need our own words.
A lot of animal names, right? I mean, it's a head of cabbage, for goodness sakes.
Yeah. The heart of the Napa cabbage is just kind of funny, right? But the center, the little start of it, right? But this little teeny bit here, we're gonna actually save and put aside. And I got that little bit here, and I put that in the bowl. Next, we have 1 pound of bok choy. So I actually pre-weighed this just to make sure. I had taken this one off, but you can see it's a little bit dirty on the inside, so I like to wash it, separate the leaves and wash inside there. The leaves can have a little bit of a sharp kind of bite. The stalks themselves are really kind of diverse, salty flavor. I love them. They're nice and thick. You can use this big bok choy, or you can use like Shanghai bok choy, baby bok choy, any type. This is just the one that's the most common here, and again, about $1 a pound. Really high in protein. Lots of protein in these greens. So we're gonna do the same thing. I'm just gonna take this bok choy, lay it down on this incredibly amazing cutting board, and then bunch up the greens and do the same technique. I'm just bunching my hands up so that I will never cut off my fingers, putting the edge of the knife against my fingers, and then cutting and slowly moving my hands back, right?
Gosh, I hate to talk to you while you're cutting, but is it worth mentioning, Chris, that your particular tolerance towards somewhat stronger flavor is perhaps better than most people, because for me, I find those greens almost impossible, the ones you just cut off the bok choy. I'll eat the bottoms of bok choy all day long. Love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
The tops are powerful.
You know, I think it's similar to say cauliflower, that depending upon the cauliflower or the bok choy, where it's grown, some of them can be spicy. Like I've had some people say, I can't eat cauliflower because it's really like spicy like a radish. And
Right.
I've had bok choy like that, and I've had cauliflower like that just has, I don't know what it'd be, maybe some mustard oil or something, I don't know, but it's stronger, right?
I think it's got something to do with them not getting enough water while they're growing, that they tend to get more bitter.
More bitter, because yeah, like this bok choy here, and most of the bok choy that I'm getting here is really mild. Like it's
great.
Yeah, it's really mild. So I would agree though. It's like I've had some bok choy, specifically different varieties than this one, that had way more of a mustard taste, almost like it was mustard greens. Which for me, if I was eating mustard greens, I'd be just putting maybe a tenth of my whole salad would have a tenth of it would be the mustard greens, not the whole salad or a pound like this, right? So you're going to want to adjust for flavor. And if you do find that your bok choy is so strong that if you take a little bit and you put it in your mouth, you feel overpowered. This is really good stuff. Then maybe you want to substitute it with either more Napa or something even just like romaine lettuce. You know, anything like that. You can take a nice firm lettuce like romaine and make amazing noodles, and you'll accomplish the same thing. So we got these beautiful bok choy noodles now, and I'm down to all the stems, and I'm going to do the same. I'm just going to chop them really thin. I use these stems in a lot of different cuisines, especially kind of Asian cuisines, and I almost treat them kind of like bean sprouts because they're a little bit thicker and juicy like bean sprouts, but instead they're just bok choy stems, right? The other fun thing you can do with the bok choy stems is you can turn them around. You want maybe chop off just a little bit to clean it up, and they're nature's perfect spoon. So you can just use it and make your dish and then have one spoon and just eat slowly off that and then eat your spoon, right? So that's a fun little bok choy tip.
That sounds like it's going to be a t-shirt in the making.
Bok choy, it'd be bok choy spoons over knives, right?
Something like that.
The good old forks over knives. Sometimes I like to say hands over knives, right? So we're just getting down towards the bottom of this bok choy. If you want, you can leave a little bit at the end. Once it starts getting to the point where when you chop it, it starts getting big chunks instead of the individual stalks. So I'll give it a close-up of that. Then that's when you kind of start to stop. There we go. So now we're getting to the center here, so you can see that there's a big chunk in the middle. So I have this much left over. If you like, you can do the same thing that we did with the Napa cabbage and kind of turn it sideways and chop a little bit closer just so you have the center. And we'll reserve that center part for its beautiful savory flavors and everything else that's good in there. You know, Doug, I know that you like the centers of the celeries. It's your favorite part, if I remember right. Even the centers of some of the lettuces. Do you do the same with the centers of bok choy?
Absolutely.
So good, right? It's just like
the best.
Yeah, it's
Doug, we got some
cream of the
questions in
crop.
chat for you.
I've answered all.
So we have all these beautiful stems here, and we'll mix them up in there. Hands freshly washed 42 times a day. And gonna just get this all loosely mixed up. So this is the bulk of our noodle dish, right? Nice and beautiful. And what we're gonna also do then is take some of this red pepper, and I'm gonna cut it in half because we're using 115 grams or a quarter of a pound for everyone in other places other than the United States. So let's see, this half of a pepper isn't quite 115 grams, so we'll add another quarter. See what that ends up at. There, wow, I almost want to show it to you. It's like 115 on the right on it. So let's see, I'll take off some of these little bits of seed. And all we're gonna do with our red pepper is chop off the bottom and the top. Chop off some of that little stringy white kind of pith. If you want, you can just nibble that up, or you can toss it aside. It still tastes good. It's just not quite as nice for presentation. You can even just put it aside in a bowl to put into the sauce. Nothing wrong with that. And then we'll just take these nice pieces of red pepper and we'll slice them into thin little matchsticks. So I typically find that you need a sharp knife to get these red peppers. And if you have a really sharp knife, then you can turn it upside down so that it's the skin side down. But you got to make sure you really slice it nice. Otherwise, you end up slicing a whole bunch and realize that you actually didn't cut them in half. And then you have to separate them with your fingers. So you want to make sure you have a nice sharp knife and you actually apply some pressure to the red pepper. So I slice these into matchsticks like this. I'm going to actually cut those in half once. So we're probably looking at matchsticks anywhere from 3/4 of an inch to 1 1/4 inches. It's totally up to you. Throw those in there. And we'll just do the same with the rest of all of these red peppers. Red peppers are incredibly high in vitamin C.
People all got very busy now. They stopped chatting and now they're busy cooking.
That's awesome. I hope that I'm going at a good pace for everyone.
You're doing well, Chris, because my chats just completely came to a halt.
Oh yeah, everyone's just like, I gotta chop all this. I can't believe it.
It's either
There's
chop
a-
or chop.
Hey, Chris, there is a question about whether, like, if you'd estimate that half a head of red cabbage is about 1.5 pounds.
Yeah, the Napa cabbage, about a half of one this size is roughly about 1.5 pounds. Now, again, you don't, when you're just making it for yourself, you don't really have to concern yourself with exact amounts. And in fact, I would encourage everyone to play, look at recipes as a little bit of a generality and to something just as a base to play with. Because, you might find that your tomatoes are more juicy or your mangoes are, more stringy or have a bigger seed or this or that. So having that sense of play, just putting it together and adding a little bit more if you need to, can sometimes just make it a lot easier and more fun. And then you never know. Sometimes you end up with a little bit of a different sauce or a little bit of a different salad. And you find the ones that you love the most. So probably wasn't exactly what they're looking for. So in fact, yes, about 1/2 of those is 1.5 pounds. I find, again, the Napa cabbage, truthfully, Napa cabbage and bok choy are some of my most frequently eaten greens. I almost never get sick of them. Some greens, like spinach, for example, if I eat it too often, I actually get a distaste for it. I've never gotten that distaste for bok choy or for Napa cabbage or for romaine or iceberg, for example. And I'm curious, Doug, I know that, for example, that spinach, has oxalates in them and, we can't overdo them compared to some other lettuces. But is there any other reason you know of that, like why certain greens, when you're eating them, all of a sudden you can have a distaste for them? Like you actually can have an aversion to them if you overdo them.
I have had that happen on occasion when I really focused in on basil.
Yeah.
I had basil in my garden and I was just couldn't get enough of it. And then one day I went to eat it and it was the most obnoxious, abhorrent thing I'd ever tried.
Yeah.
And I didn't eat any basil for 6 months.
Yeah.
At which point someone made something with basil and I was actually afraid to try. but I did and had no adverse reaction. And you know, there's a couple different theories about that. You know, you've hit a sufficiency, a nutritional sufficiency, but I think it's rare for most people to get that focused in on one specific food. We tend so much to throw in variety. I mean, you and I eat very simply, and we eat lots of variety.
Absolutely. And I think it's like your basil, it's probably happens more often in that kind of situation. Like it happened with me for spinach because I just pre-bought a ton, and even though I was sick of it, I ate more and more. And truthfully, I was over spinach for a number of years. Like at one point I loved it, and then all of a sudden I was like, I don't want to look at spinach. And it was a couple of years.
I could imagine. I could truly imagine it. And it's worth mentioning to people who don't know, this is my little 1-minute nutrition segment, that a lot of people either avoid or really minimize their spinach consumption. As you mentioned, you know, there are specific ingredients or specific nutrients and anti-nutrients in every food. Spinach contains something that's said to block out the excess calcium or to block your calcium. And so people go, oh no, calcium's so important, I better get my calcium, you know, and that's not you know, we wouldn't avoid spinach for this reason. Spinach is crazy high in calcium. Spinach has so much calcium that if it wasn't for the oxalic acid in spinach, people would say, don't eat spinach, it's got too much calcium. And so the oxalic acid that's in spinach is really not a negative. Oxalic acid you'll find it in all the greens. And it's just more of it in spinach than in most others. But again, there's more calcium in spinach, and so they neutralize each other. It's not robbing calcium from your body to eat spinach. And that's my nutritional segment for the day.
Awesome. Is it true that the net amount of calcium you'd get from spinach would be less than some other greens that have, you know, less oxalic acid in them?
I've never done the actual, like, I don't even know how to do the testing, how to get to that point. I've tried a few times to see how much calcium does oxalic acid neutralize and then go from there. But as far as I can tell, all your dark green leafy vegetables are a great source of calcium.
Yeah, absolutely.
Eat them with some type of an acid from tomato or citrus, and it'll enhance the calcium uptake. But no, I don't think one is better for you than the next in terms of nutrition.
Hey,
Awesome.
Doug, Monica's wondering if an acid is considered like a poison when you eat too much of the same food.
Yeah, you know what? Oh, that was to everyone? Sure. I'll answer that to everyone in a second while Chris gets back into business here.
Okay, so I'll just give some quick instructions and then we can start cutting while you're explaining that. So we're going to dive into the mangoes next. So we're looking for about 1 pound of mango. I'm going to try these two and just see. I'm going to taste each one and see, because again, whatever the predominant flavor is of the ingredients you're using is going to play out in the dish. So I'm looking for sweet mangoes. I'm hoping these aren't too tart. Tart mangoes can be fun. It brings a different flavor, but I'm personally looking for sweet. If I have really sweet, I could, as an option, add in something like lemon or lime if you want a little bit of extra tartness and some just extra pop to the dish. But I'm going to chop these open. Now, a little quick tip with the mangoes is most of them are kind of shaped somewhat like a head. So if you look at me, it's a nice oval in the front. If you look sideways, it's got a little bit of an oblong kind of look. And it's the same with the mangoes, right? It's kind of that oblong here, like a kidney. And this way, it's just an oval. So we want to cut along the pit, and the pit is always perpendicular with the oval here. So turn it sideways, the pit's like this. Turn it front ways, the pit's straight like that. So we just take the knife and hug it along the stem end and cut down towards the pit. And you can just use a little bit of pressure, bringing the butt end of the knife or that end of the knife along the pit. So you can actually see here that I I scored right alongside the pit, and I didn't cut so hard that I cut into the pit, but that I'm not wasting any of the mango at all or making it harder to get off the pit. So we have that cut. We have two beautiful sides of mangoes, and I'm gonna just give it a little bit of a taste. Since this is my own, I can just nibble on it. And it's really darn good. So the same thing with the Atolfo. It's kind of oblong here, more like a clean oval here, kind of like I'm facing you. And we'll do the same thing, just cut along the pit. Now, once you cut the sides off your mango, and this one looks beautiful too. Once you cut the sides off of your mango, you can just use a spoon and scoop it out if you like. Not doing the best job here. Be careful as you're cutting. There we go. So we have these beautiful ones now. I'll give it a little taste. Really sweet as well. So I'm just going to continue to scoop and get this off of here while you answer if you like. I'm just putting a bowl on my little weigher and then zeroing it out so that I can very easily just scoop and see if once I have a pound and not make any mess. So we'll just scoop all of that. So if you want to jump back in, Doug, feel free.
Yeah, I did actually. I was going to say, while you keep scooping, we might as well make you a little more of a one-man band. So you have a question. Somebody was cut. I didn't see. I forget who it was. The noodles didn't come. The greens didn't come out as noodles. And let's see if I can look back and I'll find out who it was. Oh yeah, from Sarah. Somehow she was cutting her greens and her bok choy, and it didn't come out as noodles. And she wondered if you had any suggestions. And I can't be more precise because that's all I've got. But
well, absolutely. I'm guessing with the bok choy, what she's mentioning is the stems. They don't come out quite as noodly. They come out a little bit more chunky. The only other thing I can think of is if the slices were really thick, then it doesn't come out as noodly. So the trick there is just to slice it as thin as you can and know that the stems end up being a little bit bigger chunks, kind of similar to the matchsticks, or as mentioned, kind of similar or reminiscent of little bean sprouts or something like that. So this is kind of like an Asian-inspired salad that's like thin noodles with bean sprouts.
I have trouble with the green parts. So I'm trying to imagine. The only thing I can think, Sarah, is maybe if the green parts were cut too thin, like extra angel hair fine, they might not come out as noodles. And don't be afraid to have them be, well, I guess it depends on what country you're in. 1/8 of an inch thick or a couple of millimeters is really not a problem. We're not trying to get them. We're not trying to get them as thin as hair.
No.
If you're good.
Unless you want to.
Yeah, well, you can just use the cats for that.
Yeah, exactly. Or my locks here.
We won't even go there.
No, probably better not to.
But Sarah, I think the trick is really not to try to make them too thin, and then because by the time Chris adds his sauce, things are going to soften up quite a bit. The greens will get even softer once they marinate, and so if they were cut super thin, it would sort of
it's soggy.
Yeah, it would sort of be like hair. It would be like a soggy bowl of hair. That would be terrible.
Doug, let's not talk about my food tasting like a soggy ball of hair anymore, or bowl of hair.
All right. So I think maybe try that, Sarah, and see if you cut them a little less thick. I mean, a little more thick, and see if that works.
I love mango. Does anyone love mango or have a favorite variety of mango? You know, my favorite, and I'm interested to hear your favorite, Doug, because I know you probably have tasted more mangoes than most, and I know there's
Carry mangoes.
Hundreds, if not 1,000 mango varieties.
Carrie's my favorite.
Carrie?
Carrie, C-A-R-I-E. It's Walter Zill's grandmother. Walter Zill invented he was single-handedly responsible for over 100 mango varieties, and that one was named after his grandmother.
But isn't that a hybrid, and isn't that bad?
In 1939, just in case you were wondering when Carrie mangoes came into being. Isn't that bad? Well, actually, all plants are hybrids.
Hey, yeah,
All
me too.
plants are hybrids, and all animals for that matter. All animals
too.
are hybrids too. Yeah, me too. You too. And that's just the nature of the beast. The original plant and the original animal no longer exist, whatever they were. And nature hybridizes constantly, constantly. Even the animals that are female that only give birth to females, parthenogenesis, I believe that's called. Even they hybridize over time because every once in a while there'll be a mutant one, and that's how they get a male every once in a while. But normally they're all anyway. Hybridization is perfectly fine. It's how bananas went seedless by nature herself, and
Thank you, nature.
yeah, really, many plants have gone seedless just by nature doing it. So
People go seedless too.
even people.
Even people. I will let you guys know. So I'm down to the center of the mango, and I still have a fair amount on there. What I typically do is I just take my hand and I squish it, and then you can squish it along the pit and get the extra off. If you don't want to, then of course you can just slice really thinly along there. I actually, in chefing situations where I have tons of mangoes and I'm making tons of sauce, typically if the mangoes are really ripe and fairly easy to peel, I won't even use a knife. I'll actually just peel the mango like a banana and then use my hand and just squish the juice. And I've went head to head with some other friends who swore they could cut them faster than I can squish them. And I can always squish them faster than I can cut them. But again, it does depend partially on the variety as well as how ripe they are and if the skin peels off without taking a bunch of the mango off with it. I will mention too, I got an itch on my nose, but I don't want to itch it on camera. Hey, there we go. So, so the one thing I did want to mention, my favorite mango, and I'm sure, Doug, you've tried these a lot. In fact, I think I've tried them with you. Oh gosh, is the Pakistani honey mango. Oh my gosh, do I love the Pakistani honey mango. So how do those compare to the ones you mentioned?
The carries, they're completely different. There's nothing like a carry mango.
No.
No, it's got the consistency of a avocado.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I mean there's no even thought of stringiness to it. Nothing like that. And it's way more lemony than any mango I've ever had.
Ooh, a little tart.
Yeah, really tart. Like when you first taste it, you almost think something's wrong.
Yeah.
And then by the time you finish eating it, you realize it's the most right thing about a mango there ever could be.
Oh wow.
It's fascinating. I mean, it really goes from wrong to right by the time you've eaten one.
Yeah. Wow.
But, yeah, they never caught on commercially. As I said, they were first developed in 1939, and it wasn't until 1950 that they started fruiting with any numbers. But from 50s until the 80s, the only place you saw them grown was like in Florida backyards.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're only just now becoming popular, but the problem is that they just don't ship well at all. So they'll never be a popular mango like a Tommy or something like that.
I hope to make it. I love Florida so much. I hope to make it out there and try one out someday. Go to the Spice Park or the Mango Festival out there. That'd be amazing. Teeny little one, so it all depends on what you got. So
how far from finished are we?
We're really close.
I had that feeling. You're right on time, Chris. You're right on time.
I've just been purposefully stalling as much as I possibly could just to get us right on track like that. So we have the two main sauce ingredients. We have mango, tomato. Now, I will say that is the base of my favorite sauces is mango, tomato, nectarine tomato is another good one. Peach tomato is another good one. But if I can get good mango and tomato, I'll have mango tomato almost every single time, at least as the base of my sauce. And any ratio is good. This one, of course, is 2 parts mango to 1 part tomato. But if you like it really sweet, you can do half and half, or you can do more mango, just a hint of tomato, or you can make it more savory and do half and half, or 3/4 tomato and just a quarter mango. And the sky's the limit. You can change it up. You can add little accents, just like some of the optionals we have here. This could be the sauce by itself. Or if you want with the optional, you can put a thumb of ginger in there or a little bit of ginger. So a thumb, depends on your size. You might use half a thumb. You might use 2 thumbs. If you have really little mini skinny thumbs, you might need a little bit more. You never know, right? All thumbs are great, but all thumbs are a little different. So I like ginger. It's not necessary, but as the optional, I'm going to put that in there as well. There is an option for curry powder. I've actually had enough curry lately. I'm not going to put the curry powder in myself, but you could put anywhere from a teaspoon to a tablespoon of your favorite curry powder, depending upon what you like the most. And then we also have these bums, right? We got the butts of the vegetables, the hearts, whatever you want to call them. I'd rather say bum, but I'm going to throw those in there as well. That is an optional. If you want instead, Doug might instead want to just nibble on them himself. Otherwise, you can chop them up and throw them in the blender, and that'll just add another bit of a dimension to the sauce, a little bit of a flavor accent, and a little bit more savoriness. It'll blend perfectly smooth in there. So we have everything in there. Now, one other thing I will mention is this is a hygienic dish that does not contain any onions or anything like that. The bok choy, as Doug said, has a little bit of a bite, so that actually brings out some of those bitter flavors. Whenever I'm making a dish, I'm looking to represent all of the flavors from the 5 main flavors. And see if anyone here wants to chime in and say some of them. I'll start with one of my favorites, sweet. So that's one of the 5 flavors. Doug, you want to help me out and wrap off a couple other ones that I'm forgetting about? Salty, all right, awesome. So we have sweet with the mangoes. We got salty with the bok choy and the greens and the tomatoes. And then what else do we got?
We
Bitter.
got sour from the mango.
Yeah, we got some sour from the mango. And if you want, you could add some lemon or lime if you want more sour accents.
Bitter?
We got some bitter, yeah, so we got some bitter from the bok choy greens, as well as from the ginger, if you want to add that. And then the last one is, ooh, mummy.
Ooh,
and
mommy.
my mom's here just in time as I'm saying, ooh, mummy.
Ooh, mommy.
Ooh, mummy. So umami, it's a kind of a savory flavor that is known, I think, in this translation as like good flavor or something. Do you know the actual translation?
Yeah, technically, most people would argue that it's not a flavor, but we have no other category for it. It's a very earthy thing. It's something you get from you get it in your tomatoes for sure.
Yeah, and sun-dried tomatoes. Which you could add sun-dried tomatoes, or mushrooms are really known for having an umami flavor, which, if you wanted, you could thinly slice like shiitakes or some creminis in there. But as you see, we have all of the flavors, in this dish. And I typically find if you make a dish and it has at least 3 to 4 of the flavors, it's going to taste really good. If it has all 5 flavors represented with a balance, having 1 or 2 predominant flavors, then usually it makes the dish just go really good. So,
hey Chris, could you just list what's in the blender for now?
Yes, absolutely. So here we have 1 pound of mango, 1/2 a pound of tomato, and then just the little remnants of the bok choy and the Napa cabbage, just the bottom, which is optional. And I also have the optional ginger in there, and the ginger is just a little thumb. So if we're ready, I'm going to get noisy here, and we're going to blend this up. And start it at a low speed and turn her on. Blend it nice and smooth. A little trick, if you want to oxidize it a little less. Once it gets nicely blended, just bulk blend. That's pretty nice. You can make it smooth, or if you want, you can leave a little bit of texture in there. That's totally fine as well. So look at that. We have just shy of a liter of sauce, about 750 mils for this big bowl.
All around the world, they must be watching you. Everybody must be watching you. I heard blenders going everywhere.
Yeah, I heard a couple blenders going too. Hopefully everyone's sauce is nice and smooth now. Hey, I will mention too, if you want to make this even more caloric dense, You could cube up some mango and throw it in there as well, and that could be really nice. Add an extra kind of sweet flavor and texture in the dish itself. If you wanted, you could add a little bit of avocado. I don't typically mix sweeter fruits with fats, but on occasion I'll mix something like avocado or coconut with mango, and I enjoy that. Either way, you could put a little bit in the sauce or cube it in there. Just giving options. But this is perfect. This again is my base recipe, what I really love myself very often. A perfect lunch or dinner. Just gonna pour that beautifully on top. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Would you look at
Just
that?
looks divine, Chris. Just looks
Oh,
divine. Wish I was
look
there.
at that. Look at that. Oh my. Jeez. So tip it. It's just gonna pour right out, Doug. It's gonna pour out.
No. Tip it. Be brave.
Be brave. Oh God. Okay, so
That's it.
now what we're gonna do is remove this little cutting board, and I'm gonna use my spoon, and we're gonna stir it up. And you'll see at first it looks like, oh my gosh, I do not have enough sauce. This is really embarrassing, and everyone's gonna think wrong of me, and this dish is just a fail. No, it's not though. It's perfect. Once you just stir it up, that sauce evenly coats all the greens. The greens have a nice, savory, flavorful kind of taste to them that mixes really amazingly with this mango tomato sauce. Oh my gosh. Hopefully everyone else is seeing the same thing I am, looking down at their own dish, just stirring it up.
It comes out so good, Chris. It always comes out predictably good.
Predictably good, absolutely. And if it doesn't come out predictably good, then you eat it and it disappears, or you just hide it somewhere.
I think we've got the makings of a new recipe book title.
Ooh.
Predictably good.
Predictably good. Maybe we could collaborate on that one, Doug.
Okay.
Always love collaborating with you.
Yeah, it's a joy. Totally is. It really is fun.
That's gonna be fun to see you out in Europe here soon. I'm just waiting. I'm hoping to be moving to Sweden sometime mid next month. Hopefully, we'll see.
Yeah, the snow should be thawing by then.
The what? The snow?
The snow should be thawing by then.
Yeah, hopefully. We finally got the snow gone here. We actually had a snow on the last weekend. So what I'm gonna encourage everyone to do now is to clean up the side of their bowl. Now, since this is my dish, I can use my finger. If I was making it for other people, I would definitely be using like a cloth or a napkin or something, but just cleaning off it's so good, that sauce. The side of the bowl. And then take a beautiful picture of your creation so that we can share it on the website and all over the place to see all these delicious creations together. Oh my gosh.
Sorry, Chris, how much of the curry goes into that? And it did go into the sauce mixture?
Yeah, the curry powder would go into the sauce mixture, and if you just want like a hint of curry, then you can use as little as like a half of a teaspoon. Myself, I usually like a pretty strong curry flavor. As Doug mentioned, actually, I do like strong flavors quite a bit. And so I could use up to a tablespoon of curry powder in this much sauce. And it all depends on your variety of curry too. It's going to be different flavors. There's curry powders from different places. Some of my favorites are East Indian curry powders, or a Thai curry powder, or an Ethiopian one called Berber, which is really delicious as well. Any of those, or you could use a 5 spices Chinese curry powder that has a little bit of cinnamon, and each one of these curry powders is going to totally change your dish, right? So it can be kind of fun to experiment and find the types of curry powder that you love the most.
Yeah, and a lot of people, I enjoy a lot of different varieties of curry powder myself, but I also enjoy making what you just made with only using cumin, or only using turmeric, or only using cilantro, or only the seed, coriander seed, or even only, just like you said, a touch of cinnamon is all it takes, just something, and it just peaks up everything. So you can mix all of those things. Actually, my favorite is fennel seed. So you could go with any of those or all of them at the same time, and none of that would be wrong.
Absolutely. Fennel's a surprising, delicious spice.
Delicious. Yeah, predictably delicious, predictably good.
Predictably good. And, as mentioned too, if you wanted to have a little bit more of a bite, you could chop up some green onions or some chives and throw the chunks in the dish if you want, or you could put some of them in the blender and pulse it in, or even do something what I commonly do in my sauces is I'll take a strong green like arugula, which I really love, and sometimes it's way too strong and a little bit is just like, whoa. Other times it's a little bit mellower, but I might just take a handful of arugula, put it in my sauce and pulse it, and it just gives a little bit more of a dimension of those bitter flavors, and can be a really nice addition to the dish as well, depending upon your taste and what you really enjoy yourself. So
that's again, because we're dealing with two varieties of arugula. There's mild and there's wild.
Mm-hmm.
And the wild will have quite a spicy bite to it. And the mild is, it has that arugula flavor without the peppery aftertaste.
Exactly, because sometimes, like, I've had some arugulas that all have a salad of it, and I love it, or I'll have 50-50 arugula and something else, whether it's romaine or some of this kind of stuff. But other times, literally having 2 or 3 leaves of arugula can just set me off. So, I'm wondering in the chat, I know we're going to get into a bunch of questions here. We have the dish, and congratulations, everyone. Hopefully you're either completed or nearly completed making this beautiful salad, or rather, noodles, right? And I'm curious if anyone commented at all, wondering about the cats, if they wanted to see the cats come in. Because
everybody said no.
Everyone said no. Yeah.
Cats. Cats, yes.
No.
We're getting some cat requests. Now that you've
Okay.
done prepping, we are getting some cat requests.
Welcome,
I'm
cats.
gonna-
Welcome, cats.
I'll give them the option to come in. Hey,
So
Dee Dee,
Chris, I'm hoping at this point everybody's got photos that they can share with us.
yes.
We would love to encourage you if you have any other closing comments that you'd like to make. I know Larissa probably has a few things she'd like to comment on as well, and we can start to tell you guys about
There's
next.
more cats in the picture. Chris, do you see?
Is Dottie here? Oh, is there more cats?
Yeah,
Aw.
more cats.
Cat show. I love it. I don't have my gallery view. There we go. Oh, there's another kitty. Hello.
Well, thank you very much, everyone, for spending this hour with us and making healthy raw vegan food. At this point, Dr. Graham will introduce our next chef for next Sunday.
Awesome.
Well, yes, this is a high honor for me. Karen and I have known each other probably 20 years or maybe more. I'm not even sure. I watched your children grow up and watched your family go through many interesting challenges and tremendous growth. Karen has met every challenge that's ever come to her and her family head on. And I've just been honored to be a part of her life, and had the good fortune to present at her house on her Thanksgiving festivals that she ran every year. I don't even know, 25 years or something. I've gone to maybe 15 or 20 of them, and just in her local community, on a national scene, now an internationally acclaimed author. I've had many meals at Karen Renzi's house and been thrilled every single time. I know we'll all be incredibly gifted to have Karen with us next week. I'm looking forward to it no end.
Thank you, Dr. Graham. Well, our show is officially over. You're welcome to enjoy the food. You can unmute yourself and chat with your friends and people on the show, and we're looking forward for you to see you on Sunday with Karen Renzi. Thank you, everyone.